Adya Chada from the BA LLB batch of 2027. And I am glad to inform you that we have with us today Mr. Devansh Jalan, who will be interacting with us about developing skills for wider professional prospects. Mr. Jalan is an alumnus from the Jindal Global University and graduated the Cathedral and John Connon School from Bombay before being a part of the Jindal Law School. He has attended various conferences and meetings across the world, also summer schools, and has been recognized as the very first law student and the youngest Indian to have received Indian and US patents for an electric vehicle technology that he built. And upon graduating law school, he was recognized as the youngest candidate to be selected for Entrepreneur First cohort in India. We're glad to have you with us today, sir. Thank you for sparing time for us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Adya. And please call me Devansh. Don't call me sir. I'm not that much older than you are. So, yes, thank you for your kind words. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay. Can you all hear me clearly?
Yes, sir. You're audible and visible.
So, I've made a brief PowerPoint to discuss the points that I will be elaborating upon. So, typically in law school, it's normal for a person to follow the traditional path, this law firm, that law firm, CAM, CHAM, EZB, and then become an associate, climb the corporate ladder. All of that is fine. Nothing wrong with that. It's a perfectly good career path for many, many people. But for many people who in my opinion, are pretty intelligent, tend to restrict themselves to this path. And that is what I'm talking about with this whole session. So people who actually who have a whole array of careers, they restrict themselves to this path, and hence it is important to develop certain skills to make good use of possible prospects that lie before them. So I'm going to talk about a few examples here. So if you can see these people, I'm going to talk about them individually. So Miss Katragada, you see here, she graduated from Nalsar back in the day, maybe 2008 or 9. She went to Amarchand Mangala, that was the firm, then worked there for a few years. And then, strangely enough, she went to Stanford Business School for her MBA. Now, you don't hear of that often enough, right? For a lawyer to go to business school. And then again, strangely enough, she went back to CAM and became a partner after business school. So now today, if I were to interact with a partner A from CAM, and then I were to interact with Ms. Katragada from CAM, one would be able to see a different perspective that Ms. Katragada brings to the table because of the things she learned at Stanford, because of the friends she made at Stanford, because of the experiences she had at Stanford. So it's a different, it's a very different combination that you see here, because typically people go for their LLMs or for their PhDs, but Ms. Katragada chose a different path. Now, the second person here is Alex Conway. He's actually my sister's classmate at LBS. So that's when I got to interact with him. So he's had a rather interesting career. He first was a Formula One leader at Mercedes AMG, engineering and design at Formula One. Then he went to a health tech innovation and inventing company. He built medical devices there. Now he's doing his MBA at LBS, and I believe he's going to go to McKinsey afterwards for consulting. Now you see the different perspectives that come there. Racing, health tech, and MBA at LBS, where there's a whole bunch of people in the class from different walks of life, from different careers. So that's Alex at LBS. Then there's Sarthak Singh. He's another person I've interacted with very recently. So he went to BITS Pilani. After that, typically after going to a BITS or an IIT, you go to a consultancy, you go to finance, or you go to a tech company to actually use your skills. But Sarthak instead chose to go to Mr. Jayant Sinha, who is the Minister of State for Civil Aviation. He worked there for a year or two, and then he went to Axel India, which is a pretty well-known venture capital firm. Now, as I've told many people, my juniors, a few of them who are here as well, when you go to such places such as the Ministry of Civil Aviation, you see things from a far higher level, which you would not have been able to see had you been, where all of us are today. So it's at these places that you see the pulse of what's happening. You feel that pulse, and you can actually see the future from here. Hence, it shows that experience. It shows that this person has the skills to do well, and hence from there he went to Axel, which is pretty hard to get into, I'm told. And the last person is Mr. Tom Schinner. I've interacted with him some time ago. He works at Entrepreneur First currently. So as you can see, he has a rather varied career here. He went to Oxford for his Master of Arts, after which he was a history teacher in a grammar school. Then he worked in McKinsey in various roles, after which he worked in various senior positions in Her Majesty's government, right, all the way up to the director of a department. And a few years ago, I believe 5 or 6 years ago, he joined Entrepreneur First as the chief operating officer. And you can see that the end goal at all of these places, the partner at CAM, McKinsey for Alex, Axel India, and Entrepreneur First, they require that wealth of experience. They require the diversity of experience, because these experiences show that you have the skills to analyze, the skills to execute. Now, coming to individuals here in law school. So as I was mentioning, your traditional law school path is this upper row here. I've done this, I've done a little of this too. So I know you'll go to your NGO, then you'll go to a council or a tier two or tier three firm, then your senior council and your Khetans and AZBs of the world, and then continue from there into different senior councils and firms. Great path for someone who loves law, no problem with that. But then there are people who are, who have varied skill sets and who sometimes tend to be uncertain about what to do in life. Hence, they take that skill set on, they take this path here on the top. But there is another path which I've experimented with, and I've been fortunate to be through it. So you do your NGO, you do your councils, all of that stuff for the first 2 years. Then you change things slightly. You either go to a large startup like a Swiggy or a Zomato or Misho, one of these bigger startups in a slightly junior role, or to the founder's office as an intern. Because again, from these places, you tend to see things at a different scale. You're not a minion at the bottom, just hitting buttons. You're seeing things happen, and you're actually executing at a far different level. That's a large startup. Government I've already discussed, but there are multiple other places. For instance, I worked in CM Devendra Fadnavis's war room, and in that war room, so essentially the war room was a place where all infra projects would be expedited through. So, for instance, the Mumbai Metro wanted to be, Chief Minister Fadnavis wanted to build the Mumbai Metro. He told the war room, I want to build this metro. The war room went to different departments, got all the clearances, expedited everything, and it was up and running. And that's what the war room is for: the metro, Hyperloop, the airports, the coastal road, multiple such things. So at that level, you see things at a very different scale, and you can execute at a different scale. You're not just a person sitting in the corner carrying out instructions. When I was in the CM war room, I asked them, might I do something that I'd like to do, not what's already being done. They said, sure, go ahead. Because, it's government, right? So you have that flexibility to do what you want. And I made this report on electric vehicles, how to increase the number of electric vehicles in the state. So at that point, we had about 30 odd electric buses in our city in Bombay. So my first suggestion on that report was to increase that number from 30 to over 1,000. Now, they thought that, sure, it makes sense because more public transport, cheaper for everyone. That was one thing. But the long-term objective was to create economies of scale in the electric vehicle industry. Now, most of those 1,000 buses were made by Tata. Tata made those buses. Buses have much larger batteries than cars. With larger batteries, the Tata Nexon EV became possible and viable for people like you and me to buy. So that's government. You can see things at a different level. You can execute at a different level. Then there's corporate. I haven't experienced this, but it is a way to go. So, you again climb that corporate ladder. You start as an intern. If you like that place, you grow in the role and you make your way all the way to the top. So that's the first startup after your second year that I suggest be done. That's your first internship, sorry, after your second year that I suggest be done. And from there, then you can choose. Now, if you like it, great. If you like government, you go to government. If you like a startup, you continue with internships in startups, maybe even you start up on your own. Corporate, similar path, continuous internships or pre-placement offer and continue in that role post-graduation. But then there's things like venture capital and private equity. Now, these people, you don't have to have financial knowledge. You don't have to have very strong financial knowledge. You don't have to be a CFA always to get into venture capital or PE. Now, there you interact with a lot of people. You kind of, connect dots there to make deals happen, to evaluate deals. And that's where your skills of startups, governments, corporates come into play. Hence, for guess starting with a venture capital or private equity internship might be slightly hard. Hence, I would suggest you start with a large startup, government, corporate, and then make your way all the way into venture capital PE. But it's totally doable because I've seen people go that way. So also with developing skills for wider professional prospects, it's very important to be well-rounded. You can't just be and you can't just ace your grades, be a topper in the classroom. It doesn't work. I've seen many people who've done that, but they lack that they lack many skills which would have only added exponentially to what they already have. So now it's important to read books and newspapers. So these are four books that I swear by. The Almanac of Nawal Ravikant. It teaches you not only about finance, but it teaches you about how to live, how to think. Then Sapiens. I've literally quoted Sapiens in a venture capital meeting with people. That's how comprehensive that book is. I strongly suggest that one. Then there's The Beginning of Infinity, which is a physics heavy book. It's a very different book from what a lawyer would normally read, but it gives me a different perspective. It teaches me how to think slightly differently. Hence, it's a good book, heavy read, but good. Then the 5 a.m. Club, again, teaches you about how to live, how to improve your life. Now, books are great, but you also need to have a pulse on what's going on, what's happening today, what could happen in the future. And that's where newspapers like The Economist come in. To be on a lighter note, that's my favorite cover. It's an elephant that signifies India, I think, with Prime Minister Modi as a mahout riding the elephant. So yeah, The Economist is a very good newspaper because it shows you trends. It tells you exactly what's happening in a very comprehensive manner. So I swear by these four books and this newspaper, The Economist. Podcast, another great way to gain knowledge about what you would not in your normal course of life. So these are a few podcasts that I listen to. Again, American Innovations is about how inventors made different things over the last 100, 200 years. Then there's Business Wars it's literally about business wars, McDonald's versus KFC, all of that kind of stuff. Then there's Business Movers. Latest episode I was listening to was about Exxon Mobil's oil spill in Prince William Sound in Alaska, and how the company went about clearing that hole up and the whole corporate scandal that ensued. Then there's How I Built This. It's about different startups, Coinbase and other such startups, and how the founders come and talk about how they built those startups. Then there's 20-minute VC, where Harry Stebbings invites founders and venture capitalists and talks to them, asks them about experiences. One very nice thing, it stuck with me when I heard it in one of 20 VC's episodes. So Harry Stebbings asked the founder that, you have people who work for you who are smarter than you, but then what's your point? What's the point of you being in the company if you have people smarter than you? He said, you can always have smarter employees, but only the founder is the keeper of the vision and the mission of the company. So these are a few things that, stick with you when you listen to these podcasts or read these books. Then next is sporting activities. I feel it's crucial for anyone to grow well mentally, to be physically healthier, which also contributes to your mental well-being. So swimming, golf, sailing, equestrian activities, which I believe are now available at Jindal. Not only are they good for you personally, physically and mentally, but also are they great networking places. You meet different people there. You would not meet, in a classroom or in a business meeting. You meet different people, you learn different things. Then you have to always try to talk to smarter and ideologically opposed people. There's this one instance when I was in CM Fadnavis's war room. I went to meet this IAS officer. Our conversation began with whether electric vehicles are the future and ended with whether God is there or not. And as you can see, that's the first thing I've marked. See IAS officers and such people are very intelligent people. When you talk to them, you get their perspective. It shapes your own perspective. Then there's science. If you're a lawyer, if you're a businessman, if you're an artist, it doesn't matter. You should learn about different things. These are just a few examples, of course. So you should try to talk to people who are smarter than you. I tried to talk to recently. I was talking to one of my friends from Stanford who's doing a PhD there, and we were having a discussion on Heisenberg's theory of uncertainty. So these are the different things that shape one's perspective. Now, see, I'm a hardcore capitalist at heart, but I have many friends who are not. Many of them are socialists, but I'm very happy to engage in discourse with them because that's how I learn and grow my own thought process. And Bitcoin, for instance, something I totally do not believe in. But I talk to many founders who are part of this Razorpay Rise. It's a free accelerator program where there are many startups who are working on Web 3.0 and cryptocurrencies. I'm always happy to learn from them, talk to them, because that helps me shape my own perspective. It helps me be a more well-rounded person. Lastly, it's not necessary, but it only improves you as a person. An appreciation for the arts is always perceived well whenever you interact with people. For instance, that piece of art that you can see there is Rembrandt's famous work, The Storm on the Sea of Galilee. It's my personal favorite piece of art. And then there's operas and symphonies and many different forms of art which one can appreciate. Because when you talk to people, whether it be when you're interviewing for a law firm for a job at a law firm, or whether you're trying to do something else, whether you're in front of a venture capitalist, all of these things add up. They connect dots which you would not have thought of otherwise. You can just be academically smart or you can be well-rounded. So that's what I would suggest people think about. Now, three other things that I've learned in my limited experience. It's very important to be uncomfortable with what you're doing. If you're comfortable with what you're doing, you're not trying hard enough or you're not aiming hard enough. I'll give you a small example. So, I'm a swimmer. I swim about 3 kilometers every day. The other week, this another swimmer joined me, gave me company in the morning, and he's far more advanced than I am. And he made me do these really hard workouts. So at first I was like, oh God, I can't do this. It was because I've been a good swimmer, but my skills are not as good as they were at one point. So at first I was like, oh God, I can't do this. But 10 minutes in, 15, 20 minutes in, I was feeling really good. It was a little tough because I wasn't so used to all of this anymore. But after that workout, I felt really good. It was uncomfortable, but I felt really good. As Robin Sharma says, all change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. So remember, in anything you do, whether it be professional or personal, try to be uncomfortable because if you're comfortable, you're not being the best version of yourself. Now, being open to adventures is also pretty important. I've learned in life, whether it be going to Israel for summer school, whether it be it could be literally anything. You have to try things, right? The other day, I wanted to meet a particular partner at a law firm who I was told that it's in legend that it was impossible to get an appointment with her. I had no personal link to either. I just sent her a cold email telling her that, ma'am, this is what we do. She invited me for the appointment. I went. And this has happened multiple times over with multiple different people. So you have to be open to adventures and trying because worst case, you'll fail, right? Big deal. That's my third point. Even if you fail in life, it's really not that big a deal. When I was in Jindal, my first year, I'm a little entrepreneurial at heart. So I began this popcorn distribution business because one of our family friends has just put up a gourmet popcorn plant near college. And it started selling at bistro meal, then it started going all around, became a little distribution. And I was pretty confident that it would scale to become something bigger and something that I would professionally take over once I graduated. It didn't happen, unfortunately, or fortunately. And I was a little upset then. But fortunately, soon enough after, I began my love affair with electric vehicles. And that's where I started learning about them and eventually built my technology and got patents for it. So be open to failure. It doesn't really matter. If you get up, if you fall, just get up. There's nothing to be unhappy about in that. It's very normal. This is one of my favorite quotes that I've come across. Phil Knight is the founder of Nike. He went to Stanford Graduate School of Business, and this is the foundation stone of Stanford Graduate School of Business. So what he's trying to say in this quote, if one reads it, that there will be at some point in life there will be two paths before you. It's also like Robert Frost's poem, The Road Not Taken. There'll be two paths before you. One will be filled with uncertainty, one will be a known path. For instance, before me, there were two paths, right? There was a traditional legal path, and then there was entrepreneurship. I mean, at one point you feel, okay, this or that, you're inclined to go towards the safer path, but then sometimes you have to walk down that road of uncertainty. Worst case, you'll fail. It's not a problem. It's actually a good thing to fail because you learn from that experience. So that's what Phil Knight is trying to say in this quote. Also, yeah, there's no right path. So you can take the one which is safe. You can take the one which is not safe. He can't tell you that. I can't tell you that. But the one which is more fun is the one filled with uncertainty. So as promised on LinkedIn, I will talk briefly about something that I began or just happened to begin about 2 years ago. So a few of y'all might be aware of the Jindal Intellectual Property Cell. It's a Jindal society which assists people with drafting and filing patent and trademark applications. So I began that shortly after getting my own patents, and I was very fortunate to have a team of extremely intelligent and talented people who worked alongside me. And of course, I graduated, but over time, a few of us became close enough to help each other out, guide each other. And that's how a small community got formed between the 4 or 5 of us. And I'm grateful to be part of that community. There's no leader. We're all equals. We all help each other. We all learn from each other, and we all guide each other. But also, it's important to, as Robin Sharma says, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So we'd like to grow this community and get more people in. There's no application form. There's no, system of telling people that you want to be in. But we get people in from referrals from our current 5 members. If they feel you're really intelligent, you're really well-rounded, you kind of join this community and everyone supports and helps each other. So Gypsel is a great path to enter this community because all 5 of us are from Gypsel actually. So yeah, that's all I had to say, and I wanted to keep the session a little interactive. So I'd be very happy to take questions and interact with everyone.
Thank you, sir. That was really insightful for us. I think most of us are accessible with the question and answer area of the meeting. So if you have any questions, please feel free to follow up.
Yes, Vivek, what's your question?
Hi, Devansh. It was a great session. So I just wanted to step back for a second to the statement that you made about the vision and mission of a founder. So the thing is, what I've experienced day to day is that all founders such as yourself do have that vision and mission. But as someone who's picking up after the founder, in case a founder is not present or has left the institution, what advice would you give to someone who's picking up the mantle and has to live by the same vision and mission? Like, how does someone learn what the vision and mission was?
Oh, great question, Vivek. But see, each person is different. You're different. I'm different. I might feel one way is correct. You might feel a different way is correct. Good example is, Yes Bank. The former MD and even the founder of Yes Bank felt that it was prudent to go around splurging and spending bank resources when the bank wasn't in a good position. But immediately after it was taken over, things were cleaned up and the vision and mission have changed. But you'll also see reverse scenarios where for instance, Anil Ambani, right? Reliance was an extremely well-to-do company under Dhirubhai and even Mukesh Ambani. There was a vision and a mission. But after the split, that mission and vision changed. And hence the place is what it is now. But you just have to follow your gut and your instinct, I feel. You have to understand the pulse of a situation and you have to go with your gut from your own readings. Of course, people will always be there to advise you, as I believe are there in every institution. But firstly, you will be in a particular position because people feel the people leaving and other people around feel that you should be in that position, that you're capable to be in that position. So, firstly, those persons are capable enough to take the mantle forward. But then there are people to advise them, and they also have to follow their gut and instinct because, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer to taking something forward. So it's all about your gut, your instinct, and feeling the pulse of the moment. That's what I would think.
Right. Thank you so much, Devansh. That answers my question.
Even I had a question that I think should be addressed. So, like, we majorly covered about how law school kids would be interested in taking up whatever they do after
Hmm.
graduating or while studying as well. What about business school and other school kids?
See, as I said, it's all about having different experiences. So if you're a business student, for instance, I would probably opt for an internship or a job in government, in a CM's war room, or in any other such place where you can get a much wider perspective of that, of, well, what's happening in a corporate, for instance, in the founder's office or in the CEO's office. Because you see, that's all the way up. You're not down there following orders. You're up there in the process of making orders. So for business school, probably, going to government, startups would be a great option again, probably in the founder's office. But essentially something that you wouldn't normally do. You have to be, as I said, slightly uncomfortable in that position to really be able to learn from what's happening. Yes, Ami,
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
I can. Yes,
Yeah, it was a great session, sir. Thank you so much. So
thank
my
you.
question to you is that former, I was a humanities student and now being a BA LLB law student, there are a lot of times that we are not exposed to a lot of financial subjects or aspects about um, just even with the perspective of law subjects, we do not have any financial subjects. And today, in today's world and in the future as well, we need to be well versed with these aspects. So as a person who has no to less experience about these things, where do you suggest we start? What are the things that we should look at and give it a shot and try? If you could elaborate on that.
Certainly. So, see, everything begins with your own interest. If you're interested in finance, what I would do is I would probably read uh, 40 economic ideas. I think that's a 40 or 50 economic ideas, whatever. It's a famous book. I would watch some YouTube videos to understand financial concepts. I would talk to people in finance to understand exactly how it works. Maybe even your peers in business school or in the school of finance, I would probably talk to them to understand. See, if you have a particular interest, no, then I would really explore that. For instance, I had that interest in electric vehicles, so I explored that in every way I could. So I would suggest, you start with books, videos. Videos are really easy to understand, and probably try interning at a finance company as a business development intern or something of that sort. So you don't only get theoretical learning, but that experiential learning as well. Because I personally feel experiential learning is far, far better than theoretical learning. So that's what I would suggest you could do.
Thank you so much, sir. That was actually quite insightful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have another question, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, so sir, you mentioned that when you were in Jindal, you started a small distribution business of popcorn.
Yes,
And now I'm in my fourth year, and I have a small business of I sell brownies on campus.
nice.
So I just want to know, how would you suggest that I expand it? It's just been 3 months old, and I did get really good response. But if you had any ideas or any suggestions on how I could advance it on a bigger scale, it would be great.
Can you tell me a little more about your business?
Okay, so essentially these are it's just I started from my room, and
Hmm.
it's I have basically 4 varieties. It's just brownies for now. It's eggless plain brownies, and so it's based on order. I put up stories. I have an Instagram page, and I just take orders based on how many ever people are interested in it. And
Hmm.
I also try to sort of advertise it during some auctions or JSLAM matches. But I
Right.
haven't been able to do much. I know there was this one Dean. I don't know if you know him, Paddy.
I
Anyway,
guess, yeah.
so he kind of said that he'd be open to maybe giving me bigger orders for seminars that happen on campus, but
Hmm.
that didn't really because the semester ended before I could even take that on. It
Right.
kind of fizzled out. So
So I'll be a little honest, don't mind, but you're still playing it safe because you're taking orders. The best way to do business, at least what I've seen in Jindal, people buy on impulse like crazy. If you sit in that place outside the mess with your brownies, in my opinion, they would fly off the shelf. Because if they are so good, you don't get them with the person who sells coffee or that other person who sells sandwiches, right? So I would actually take that leap. Maybe you lose, maybe you'll have 100 extra brownies and just give them to your friends afterwards. But take that risk, take that little risk. So I remember at my first stall, the first time I had a stall in Bistro Meal with this popcorn thing, we just had that standalone stall, right? But a few of my friends came together. We got this basket. We put the popcorn in the basket, and one of my friends roamed all over Bistro Meal. That's how we got probably 70% of our sales. So you have to actually reach out to people. Don't wait for orders. People buy on impulse, especially in Jindal, because I've been there, I know it. People are pretty starved for good food. So you give that good food to them at a reasonable price, even if it's a little unreasonable, people will buy it because you just need that good food sometimes. So that's what I would consider doing. If not outside the mess, probably in the Adda, if that place is still there. In these places where the footfall is large. Look for places with large footfall and set up shop there. And make sure to publicize that you're there first.
right, thank you so much. Actually, this was in the pipeline. A couple of my friends also suggested that I actually sit in front of the mess or the adda, where people constantly come for coffee, especially for with
Yeah.
Honey Bhaiya. So that's a good place. But thank you so much. I might actually do that.
No,
Thank
you
you.
should do it. I would strongly suggest you do. You have nothing to lose.
That's true. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Someone from the audience also has something to say about your sales. So it's there in the Q&A area.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, see, it's the exact same thing. Yeah, we have one more question. Yes, Ashok,
Uh, Hi, am I audible?
you are, yes.
Yeah, firstly, thank you for the session. I just wanted to ask you to like elaborate on how to land internships when you are, when you're actually when you're actually going to experience different things. So let's
Hmm.
say that right now I wanted to have an experience in litigation. So I did a litigation internship. But if next time I want to explore something else and I want to apply for a corporate internship, then
Right.
my CV has a litigation internship. So how likely I am to get that corporate internship because I don't have a prior experience at it. And so what can I do to make sure that I get that internship? So, I mean, if you could just talk about it. Yeah.
So, I'll explain this with a story to you. Mr. Ratan Tata has been my icon ever since I was a kid. First time I met him, I remember I couldn't speak. That's how fond I am of him. So I think about a year, 2 years ago, I wanted to send a letter to him for some advice or something. So, post well never goes through, emails no one reads. He doesn't stay very far away from here. So I took the letter and I went to his house. I told the watchman this is for him. The watchman refused to take it. And then I made up some story that how I'm from Mantala because technically I'd interned at Mantala. And I told him, I'm from there and all, I work in the CM war room. So then the watchman's like, okay, give me a moment. He called up his boss and all. He took the letter, went to Mr. Tata. I received the email from him with whatever I needed. So my point here is that when you want something, no, you have to find a way. You have to push your way through. So for instance, if you want a corporate internship, LinkedIn is there today, right? You don't have to go to people's doors and knock. You go to LinkedIn and you cold email people. So yeah, yeah. So you cold email people on LinkedIn, you message people. See, today I work for a startup called App Dorsey, and we constantly keep growing our network exactly this way. We cold email people, we send messages to them on LinkedIn. Another very good way I would suggest to you is you go for conferences, leadership conferences. I've been for a few of them where I've met pretty intelligent people, such as Jack Ma himself, and you start traveling a little. I know it'll cost a little money, but trust me, it's a worthwhile investment. I went to Israel for summer school. My father was really keen. Israel, we usually don't go there for holidays, to go for summer school. I went there. I learned a lot, especially for electric vehicles. And so conferences, travel, and essentially the slide that I showed you earlier about being well-rounded, with sports, with reading, with talking to smarter people. That's where you don't know what dot connects where. I'll give you another example. Last month I was at a conference, at a certain conference, and there was a very senior lady there. So I asked her, Madam, might I get a picture with you? She said, sure. So there was no one to take the picture. So she said, Kabir, just come here and take the picture. So he came, he took our picture, all of that was great. She started talking to someone else. I went to this Mr. Kabir and I to see the picture and all. I started talking to him. Turns out he was a partner at Clifford Chance. And I sent our reports to him. He loved it. He wants to collaborate going ahead. So my point is you don't know what dot connects where. So you have to put yourself out there for these dots to present themselves and for them to connect. So to directly answer your question, I would cold email people expressing your keenness. I would send messages to people again expressing your keenness. Probably even try using your own network, through your friends, through your parents' friends. I'm sure there'll be someone who'll help you get your foot in the door. And once your foot's in the door, then there's no problem. Have I answered your
Yes,
question?
yeah. That answers my question. Thank you.
Any further questions from anyone? I mean, if someone's an entrepreneur here, I'd be happy to answer any questions you all have because I have some experience in that.
So you went on talking about an IP club that Jindal has. So I've been there
Yes.
for I am a first semester student only right now. I just finished that.
Right.
But I didn't get to know about it. However, I still did go out of my way to pursue an IP internship this winter itself. So
Right.
how can I go on with that? How can I be a member? You told us that they can be referred, but
So you see Vivek right here, who asked me the first question. He's the president of Gypsel. He's also
okay.
a close friend of mine. You can reach out to him or anyone else in Gypsel.
Okay.
Any further questions?
I think that's pretty much it. So
Great. Then it was nice
thanks
talking
a
to
lot.
everyone.
Yeah, it was really great for, especially for we're not that exposed to this kind of information, and it really adds on to our experiences as well. Like putting ourselves out there is a very difficult task, and I think learning from you is what makes us understand how important it is and how, where, to what places can it get to us. So thanks a lot for sparing time for us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to talk to my alma mater.
I think
Okay,
we can
thank you
conclude the session.
very well.
Okay,
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.